This is AchieveRadio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AchieveRadio.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The wellness scene with Dr. D. Here we go now. Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. The wellness scene with Dr. D.
Welcome, everybody, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. Thank you to all of our thousands of dedicated listeners. We love you, and it's always so fun and inspiring to hear from you on a weekly basis or whenever you get around to writing about the thing that you enjoyed hearing the most in the show. I do say that this is one of the best educations you could possibly ever get, and you're getting it from a woman who is amazing and wise and experienced and knowledgeable and has absolutely no need to pull the wool over your eyes about how the human body works and what you can expect it to do when you give it the basic building blocks. And, of course, I'm talking about our very own Dr. Carolyn Dean. I'm Ginny Gunther. Some people know me as Ginny Almighty, and I also do customer service for Dr. Dean. But the main thing that I want to say tonight is I'm just so happy to be here with you on the radio and in our podcast and on our YouTubes. And, I mean, we're getting the word out, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting the word out. And before I bring Dr. Dean on, I want to just say something to you, those of you who are in our listenership and podcastship. You know, every week I come on and I talk about what an extraordinary woman Dr. Dean is, and I know from my own experience, and I know because of the testimonials we get about our products, I know from her own personal intervention in my life and the life of people around me how wise she is. And she is a thought leader, ladies and gentlemen, and, you know, she's taken a lot of flack in her life for being on the leading edge of creation with her knowledge and her knowingness. And, of course, a lot of you know that she was persecuted in Canada because of her stand against sugar, and now that seems so absurd, right? I mean, you know, granted, it was back in the 90s and the early 2000s when nobody was taking a stand like that. Okay, fine. But now it's just like the sugar train is off the rails and people are being mowed over by the tens of thousands every single day. And it's like, duh. Okay. I just want to line this up for you. Last year, Dr. Carolyn Dean made a public health statement in May. She said magnesium deficiency is a public health crisis, a public health crisis. And as a doctor and a person who is aware, and lo and behold, of course, she would be aware, my goodness gracious, because she is all over the globe communicating with people all day, every day about this situation. She made this statement, and, you know, got into a little bit of a tight spot there, having come out and declared that, because here's what is so compelling about it. Not only is it true, but it's an easy solution. Okay, now I want to tell you something else. Later this same year, 2017, there were 3 researchers who are doctors, cardiologists, and cardiovascular researchers, and they wrote a paper, Subclinical Magnesium Deficiency, a Principal Driver of Cardiovascular Disease, and, wait for it, people, a public health crisis. That's right. Public health crisis. This is October 2017, okay? After Dr. Dean had launched her statement and sent those words out into the world. Now, I want to read the beginning of one of the things they say, because these exact words are the words that Dr. Dean says every week. Because serum magnesium does not reflect intracellular magnesium, the latter making up more than 99% of total magnesium, most cases of magnesium deficiency are undiagnosed. And then they go on to state all the reasons because of chronic disease medication decreases in food crop magnesium content and the availability of refined and processed foods. The majority of people in modern society are at risk for magnesium deficiency, and individuals will need to supplement with it. And then they go on and say that an easy, cost-effective strategy exists to prevent and treat subclinical magnesium deficiency should provide an urgent call to action. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been on the radio with this gal for 8 years saying these very words, standing on our side, up and down, up and on our head, jumping up and down, holding our breath, pulling our hair. I mean, this is what we've been saying. And now you're going to see, and this is my prediction, a huge groundswell of all kinds of doctors and clinicians coming out in support of Dr. Dean's very own statements. And I say all that this evening because I want to continue to hearken you to the reality that this is a public health crisis. We have got to get your help. We want your help in communicating this to other people. Share Dr. Dean's information. Share on the Facebook page. And know that the person that you are going to be listening to tonight is a very, very, very wise, prominent, and highly intelligent doctor, practitioner who is going to complete her mission and change the world for the better for magnesium. And having said all those words, I will now welcome to the show, very own Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Hey, Ginny, that was awesome. That was the best rant ever. So I don't think I need to rant because you did say it. You said it all. So that's awesome, and it's true, and we've all been duped. And we do have to dig in and take care of ourselves and take care of others. And fortunately, I've been blessed with being able to give you the answers. As we all see in today's show, Ginny started out with her blog, Magnesium and Minerals, Cellular Health for the Thyroid. And that launched a huge groundswell of questions to customer service to be asked on the show, and it just makes me so happy to get these questions. This is what makes my brain work, is when people ask me even tough questions. The tougher the better, and what we've been able to put together for you in the RNA reset protocols, the complement formulas, they really do address most of these questions and most of the problems people are having. So it's just very, very exciting to be able to be on the show and get my brain going. And this is what I love about people when they ask these tough questions. Most of the time they don't expect an answer, and a lot of the times people are pretty blown away when we can give them kind of a very basic answer. Jenny, talking about this whole sugar business, we've kind of fine-tuned it down to the ketogenic diet for the most part, and Jason Chung, who says, stop eating sugar and burn it off. That's the treatment for obesity and for diabetes. Stop it and burn it. I mean, how can it be any more simple than that? And I'll drag out that simple message to 40 minutes in our webinar this week. What are we doing it? On Thursday, you'll get the announcements for our webinar on diabetes, and we're not treating diabetes. We're treating structure and function of the pancreas and carbohydrate metabolism and all those other good things in our March 15th webinar on diabetes. So be there. And it's simple. It's very basic and simple, makes sense, common sense. So Jenny's blog, she writes, millions of people are suffering, trying all kinds of diets, pills, treatments to clear their mental fog, boost energy, lose weight. Unfortunately, there is little success to be had until the thyroid and adrenals are restored at a cellular level. So how do you know if you're suffering with a weakened thyroid or adrenal system? For starters, you can review the following list and see if you're experiencing 3 or more of the common signs of hypothyroidism. And it's a long list. You can find this email either in your inbox or at the drcarolyndeanlive.com website. So the list includes yeast infection, vitiligo, which is loss of skin color, constipation, sleep apnea, alopecia, which is hair loss in patches, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, carpal tunnel syndrome, patches of discoloration on the face, Raynaud's syndrome, dry mouth, polymyalgia, dry eyes, attention deficit disorder, dry skin, muscle cramps, lump in breast, brittle nails, hives, psoriasis, eczema, hoarse voice, cold hands and feet, scalloped tongue, low sex drive, excessive earwax, cold intolerance, slow heartbeat, chronic infections, tongue biting, headaches, and migraines. And the blog goes on. If you or someone you love is experiencing 3 or more of these symptoms, then please read on. Folks with thyroid and adrenal fatigue may suffer all these associated symptoms, but it's not necessarily because of thyroid disease itself. From Dr. Dean's 50 years of study and experience, the cause of many issues within the endocrine system can be taken down to their true root causes of mineral deficiency and yeast overgrowth. And when the thyroid is low, the adrenals are not far behind, and vice versa. The 3 major hormone systems, adrenals, thyroid, and sex hormones, are like a 3-legged stool. When one of the legs of the stool is shortened, it affects the other 2. This can be seen on blood testing when cortisol levels go up with the adrenal glands and when thyroid hormone levels go down with the thyroid. There's an ongoing debate among natural medicine practitioners about what comes first, adrenal fatigue or thyroid insufficiency, and what do you treat first. But what if Dr. Dean is right and the main cause of both is mineral deficiency? Then you can remedy both conditions simultaneously. So the first question we got was from a naturopath chiropractor who said, would Dr. Dean please address the connection between hypothyroid and these 3 symptoms, vitiligo, hoarseness of voice, and biting the tongue? Now, with the thyroid, you can get an enlargement of the thyroid, like a mini goiter, and that will press on the, can press up and around the voice box and cause hoarseness of the voice. It's very common for people with very bad hypothyroidism to have a hoarse voice, but I've seen it happen in even mild cases. The biting of the tongue, that's related as well to the deficiency of minerals, the magnesium deficiency, and that's where the tongue just goes into a magnesium deficiency spasm, and it gets in the way of your teeth, and you just clamp down on it. I used to do that all the time, and I didn't know what it was. And when I finally got saturated with Remag, I stopped doing that. And it's horrible when you bite down on the side of your tongue. You cause ulcerations, and that can be hard to heal. Although I have found the food source vitamin C complex really does heal that type of injury. Now, the vitiligo, that's a bit different. That's more the autoimmune causes of hypothyroidism. Let me explain. They say hypothyroidism, especially the Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism is an autoimmune disease, and that can be triggered or influenced by yeast overgrowth, where the yeast toxins block the thyroid hormone receptors with molecules that mimic either thyroid hormones or the precursors to thyroid hormones. it's a bit complicated, but maybe I'll just say it this way. If thyroid disease is being called an autoimmune disease, you can get autoimmune disease by having yeast antibodies irritating the thyroid. And vitiligo is an autoimmune disease, and so it has kind of this cross-reaction to yeast overgrowth and Hashimoto's. Bit complicated, but it weaves in and out of my whole thesis about mineral deficiencies and yeast overgrowth being the main problems. The next thyroid question, I'm hypothyroid, currently taking 37.5 milligrams of T4, 10 micrograms of T3. Also taking 2 teaspoons Remag and 1.5 Remite daily. How will I know whether that is the optimum dose of Remag and Remite for me? Well, that's the dosage we like people to start with the Remag and Remite for whatever magnesium deficiency symptoms and to support the thyroid. What will happen, you can stay at that level, and over time just really notice if your pulse starts elevating, if you feel a little warmer, if your hands and feet warm up, maybe even if you start feeling a little hot, and just notice that difference. And what you do then, and usually that can be like 3 to 6 months, and then you repeat your blood tests and see if they're improving. But if your body is starting to respond to the magnesium and the multiple minerals, it's allowing those minerals to make your own thyroid hormones. And if you're making your own, you don't need as much of the medications. And if your blood tests are showing that you don't need as much medication, your doctor will help you wean off, because we all know that too much thyroid hormone is not a good thing. It's not dangerous to be doing what you're doing. You're just supporting the structure and function of your thyroid. It's working better, and any common sense doctor will wean you off or lower your dosage of thyroid medications if you don't need them. The next question, after using the complement formula for thyroid health, what tests should I take in order to assess if the formula is working for me? My TSH is in the 4.0 range and I'm losing hair. How long after taking the formula should I wait before having the test? What are the side effects that I might feel? Actually, I just answered that question pretty much. And yes, it's the TSH that will start getting lower as your thyroid is improving. The TSH is the thyroid stimulating hormone. It's released by the pituitary gland in the brain or in the head to push the thyroid to work harder. Thyroid stimulating hormone stimulates the thyroid to work harder. And as TSH elevates, you know your thyroid is just getting slacker and slacker as your TSH goes down. And the quote normal is 2.5 and lower. So as your TSH gets normal, then you won't need as much of your thyroid hormone drugs. And as I said, the symptoms of the thyroid working are your hands and feet get warmer and toastier. Next question, I'm 63 years old, female, been on 75 micrograms Synthroid and 5 micrograms Leothionine for 9 months. Now let me just jump back here where someone says they're on 3.75 milligrams of T4 levothyroxine. I wonder if that should have been micrograms. I'm hiding from the lawnmower people, so I can't look that up directly, but just be aware I may have made I read the mistake into the record previously. This woman continues, prior I was only on 50 micrograms Synthroid for 10 years. Now my skin and scalp are becoming very dry, had little energy, second half of the day, no appetite, till 5 p.m. So my endocrinologist has doubled the leothyronine to 10 micrograms from 5 and maintained the Synthroid at 75. As a result, I have more energy, skin still dry, now heart palpitations. So see, this is what I'm saying. When you increase the thyroid too much and you really don't need it for your total body balance, then it can start pushing your heart a little bit, and that's where the palpitations can come in. She said, I've never experienced that before. Blood pressure is, it looks like it's pretty low each morning. I just started taking half teaspoon Remag daily with 1/8 Himalayan salt 2 weeks ago. Should I continue taking Remag with my thyroid medications? I just bought Remite, but not sure how to take it. Now, not sure how to take it. I don't understand that because it's all written out in all my books, and customer service tells people it's even on the label. When you buy the Remag Remite products, you will get a brochure that tells you exactly how to take it. So please refer to the written material so that it's something that your mind takes in intellectually to understand how this is all working. But basically, I tell people to start with a 1/4 teaspoon of Remag, and every couple of days increase by a 1/4 teaspoon. After a week, you start the Remite. It's the Remite minerals that really support the thyroid hormone production. Magnesium absolutely helps, but you need all 9 thyroid minerals to turn this around. See, what's happening when you're just taking the Synthroid and leothyronine, you're just taking the T4 and T3. Well, what about T1 and T2? That's where we began switching people over to Armour Thyroid in the alternative medicine world because it's a desiccated thyroid and it had all the thyroid hormones. But even better is what I've been working with, which is the Remite minerals that support your own production of your own thyroid hormones. So what's happened by increasing the medications, the thyroid medications, it does help the energy, but it's pushing the heart too much. So there's no balance there. What we're all about is balance. So you have to look at that. You have to read the thyroid booklet that I wrote. Oh, I don't know. I forget what it's called. Remineralize Your Thyroid, perhaps. And I take note of this person's email. It has wine in it, W-I-N-E, and you may find that you'll have to forego drinking wine for a while until you get this sorted out. There are many triggers for balancing the thyroid. We've already mentioned yeast overgrowth. We're talking about remineralization. So you really have to take responsibility for looking at all the triggers to help balance your body. Your body is really just giving you signals and to create the balance. And if I was reading this in my ION notes today, if you want the balance on the scales and you've got your thumb on one side of the scale, you're putting your body at a very unfair advantage. You're tipping the balance. And I do make my best effort to tell you about the triggers of thyroid imbalance. And they do boil down to what affects your minerals and what allows your yeast to overgrow. So the solutions aren't that terrible. The list of triggers may sound like a lot, but the solutions are very doable. The next question, I'd like to know the combination for thyroid and adrenal health. Now that, I'm pretty sure that's written in my Remag book, Invisible Minerals, Part 1, Remag. I do go into thyroid and adrenal balance in there, and basically it's the complement formulas. And for the adrenals, it's lying down therapy, making sure you do get your vitamin C as well as your Remag and Remite. If your potassium level in your blood looks low, you make potassium broth. Very, very kind of basic solutions, but you have to follow them. And you can't think, well, I'll just look around the internet and find a bunch of supplements and I'll take them and then I'll be better. No, it's got to be more intelligent than that, and also more intuitive than that. You cannot keep treating the body as if it's a bag of chemicals with replaceable parts, and you just sort of stir in some more chemicals. You have to be really conscious of what you're doing, and part of what we're talking about at RNA Reset now is you are healthier than you think. You've been led to believe that you have to go to a doctor if you have any symptom. The doctor knows best. The doctor will do the best for you. The doctor has your health and wellness in mind. No, the doctor really has just been trained. This last decade of doctors have been trained that if you have a symptom, you need a drug. They've never been trained in nutrients or diet, and they don't realize that you are healthier than you think because your thinking has gotten in the way. You think that the doctors are going to take care of you. You're too busy dealing with the rest of your world, and you've given up your body to the doctors. But that's not good enough anymore. We just can't keep on that mindset. It just isn't working for us. I'll do a couple more blogs before I go over to Ginny because there are a lot of blog questions here. My question relates to sleep and thyroid hormones. I'm 51. I've been having interesting sleep issues over the last couple of years. I keep startling awake, like a bear is chasing me type of waking up. Typically, several times a night. I've had instances of tongue biting in my sleep as well. My doctor feels I'm borderline hypothyroid, and I'm on leothyronine, that's a T3. I'm also taking bioidentical progesterone, 200 milligrams estradiol, 0.05 patch. I've also been told I have adrenal fatigue. I have the desire to sleep but don't get sleepy at night. That's the adrenals just revving up too much at night, keeping her awake, keeping the adrenaline going all night. My mind is so busy. I take 400 to 600 milligrams magnesium glycinate each night along with ashwagandha. I just want to sleep like I used to. What do I do? Now, there's also, she doesn't say, but 51, I mean, it could be either menopause or perimenopause. She's not saying, but just think of what Ginny wrote in the blog. It's the triad, your sex hormones, your thyroid, and adrenal. We talk about this as being a bit of total body meltdown, and I've written about this. Go to my Remag book. I've written about the thyroid and adrenals, the need for lots of magnesium in order to help you sleep. If you're not sleeping, you're not taking enough magnesium. And the magnesium glycinate obviously isn't working. It's not enough. If you switch to 600 milligrams of Remag, you'll notice a difference because it'll be fully absorbed at the cellular level, and then you'll get the benefits of therapeutic magnesium. And along with the Remite to support the thyroid, and the Remag magnesium is going to help menopausal symptoms. So basically, it is going to the complement formulas. You can also do the Realign for the B vitamins that support the nervous system and help with gentle detox. So it's all written in there. I've been at this for many decades, and somehow, and very fortunately, I use my own intuition and my own kind of knowing that I'm healthier than I think to put together a program that really does seem to work for everybody. This one, I have Hashimoto's. I've been taking Remag, Remite, and feel it is helping me, but I also take additional zinc per my nutritionist based on lab tests. My nutritionist is a PhD, very knowledgeable, so I trust him, but I worry that taking additional zinc will upset the mineral balance. Of course it will. I mean, why wouldn't it? It's just going to do that. It'll push down your copper, and it will push the zinc portion of your thyroid hormones, build up what turns out at the end of the zinc cofactor being used up, and then you won't have enough of the next mineral to deal with that buildup. So, yeah, it just doesn't. The body doesn't work like that. We cannot just insert a high dose or even a mild to moderate dose of another mineral without putting all the others in balance. And then you don't want to do that because most of the minerals out there in single form are just dirt minerals, and they're not well absorbed. What's different about the Remite, and you'll read that in Remite book, it's called Invisible Minerals Part 2, is that all my minerals are stabilized ionic forms of the elemental mineral, and in that stabilized ionic form, they're in the picometer size that allows them to be fully absorbed at the cellular level. So that's what I'm talking about. And she said, I would also love to hear Dr. Dean's thoughts about taking iodine with Hashimoto's. Well, the whole thing about iodine and Hashimoto's, the word has gotten out there over the years that too much iodine will promote Hashimoto's by pushing the thyroid hormone and pushing the thyroid to make more thyroid antibodies. But if you have the balance of just the RDA of iodine, and then you have your selenium, whatever the iodine makes will then be helpfully metabolized by selenium, and the whole thing will be balanced out. So that's what Remite does. Also saying, I'm wondering if I may have a problem with some B vitamins and therefore don't seem to do well on combined Bs. I have Realign, but I'm nervous about taking it for that reason. Well, I know the whole MTHFR business has gotten everybody all worried about their Bs. The Realign is the methylated Bs, and the ones that aren't methylated are food-based. So it's like eating food that has a lot of Bs in it. I don't know that maybe we've had 2 people that I know of who've said the Bs are too much for me. And these are people who say they have a certain type of gene variation. So I know anybody can have a sensitivity to anything. So I never say, well, you're wrong, but I just say, look, you have to try these things. You have to kind of read all the information that we have on Realign. Actually, I'm just finishing up a book now on Realign so that I can help educate people. But these things, you have to try them. I mean, if you've ever taken a drug before, then, hopefully you were as concerned about taking that drug as you are of taking a B vitamin. So, yes, just understand what you're taking and why. Try not to let your thinking get too carried away with kind of negative input on the Internet. The whole thing about the Internet is people are trying to draw attention to themselves, and a lot of the attention is by making negative stories or wild claims or just stirring people up, creating half-truths that are just scaring people and take us away from achieving our balance, because our mind is so kind of wavy gravy with all the information out there. So just stay true to yourself and use your common sense. And like Ginny and I say, just read my stuff, listen to my radio shows. And if you have a problem with what I'm saying or it doesn't sound right to you, then ask me. Put the question to me, because I'm one of the few people that you can actually reach and ask a question of. Okay, there's a lot more mailbag, Ginny, but I think I should go over to you and see what you've got for us.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, very good, comprehensive information. Lots of questions being answered. We do have some on the chat line, and I also want to let people know if you did want to speak to Dr. Dean tonight, you've got to call 602-666-6027. 602-666-6027 is the number. I also typed it in the chat line. You call into the studio, and then you've got to hit *5 on your keypad. *5 will let me know that you've got a question, and then I can put you on the line with Dr. Dean. If I don't see your raised hand, like thank you, area code 479, just raise their hand. If I don't see your hand raised, then I can't put you on the line. So, again, 602-666-6027. Let's go through a couple of these questions, Carolyn. Going back to, let's see, where are we here? Okay. We're going to go with Elise. I've just turned 50, and aside from stubborn weight gain, I am noticing soft lumps in several places on my throat. Does this indicate thyroid issues? I am on the complement formulas, and she's taking 5 milliliters 3 times a day of the Remag and a milliliter 3 times a day of the Remite, and she's also drinking the sea salted water.
Well, I don't know what soft lumps on the neck mean. The thyroid is distinct in a distinct place in the on either side of your esophagus, just below the Adam's apple. That women don't have that, but men do. So it's deep. You have to put your fingers in. I'm doing it now, so my voice has gone all wobbly. So soft lumps in the neck, they're going to be neck lymph glands, nothing to do with the thyroid. And in terms of what you're taking, I know our label says 1 teaspoon a day of the Remag is the maintenance dose, but that's just to meet FDA requirements, just to keep our dosage within the RDA. But if you read down the label, it talks about using more for therapeutic. I don't know if we're allowed to say therapeutic anymore, but using more under your doctor's guidance, or if you want to take more personally. I used to take 4 teaspoons, which is 1,200 milligrams. Now I'm down to 1 teaspoon because I'm saturated and, I'm fine. But if you're in the beginning year or even couple of years of taking Remag and Remite, you do want to look at taking 2 to 3 teaspoons of Remag and 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of Remite to really get the structure and function of your body improving.
Okay, so she's typing in, I think Elise is out of the country for one thing because she's using milliliters and not teaspoons like we usually do. But Elise, so I don't think she can call in, but she's saying it's in the hollow of her throat, these lumpy things. So,
well, that's something she should get checked out. It's not something that I would ever be able to manage, and certainly not diagnose on a radio show. So if it's a concern, she should have it checked out.
Right, very good. Yeah, check that out. And whatever, then get back to us, Elise. And you can always email support, SUPPORT, at rnareset.com with more details if you want to interact with Dr. Dean by email. She's not able to do consults anymore because of the whole FDA thing, but she can correspond by email within reason. Okay. Let me know if that's supportive, Elise. If you need anything else, just email me. Now, the blood guy on the chat line is writing in cryptic messages, and what it says is health food owner friend got maybe that's thyroid cancer, after 2 weeks on a 28 milligram iodine from a very trusted brand. Is that even possible?
I don't know, but that's not something we can talk about. That's,
right.
We would never recommend high-dose iodine, and I make that very clear, but I have no idea what's going on there. Cancer does not develop overnight.
Right. That's right, exactly. Okay, so great. Thank you. Elise said thank you. Got it. She will take care of it. Very good. Thank you, Elise. Okay, excellent. Now, Carolyn, do you want to take a phone call?
Sure, that'd be fun.
Okay, let's go out to the great state of Arkansas, area code 479, and we'll put you on the line with Dr. Dean. Hello, hello.
Hello. How are y'all?
Oh, we're great.
Good.
What's your first name?
My name
First
is
name?
Connie.
Connie?
Connie? Yes.
Okay,
Connie.
go ahead, Connie.
Okay.
All right.
First of all, I want to thank you for Remag. I had sent an email in, but in case you didn't get it, I am taking care of my sister with late-stage Lyme. And
yes. I know that, yeah.
Okay. I've been taking care of her since last August. She was hospitalized twice last year with her Lyme with convulsions, seizure-like activity, but they weren't seizures. She was coherent and all. And ran all kinds of tests, was in a university hospital, and they couldn't figure out anything. So we put on Remag, and it stops her seizures on a dime, just immediately. It'll stop them. As long as she takes it, we're good. We can't seem to get enough down her. With her muscle test, or have her muscle tested, she's testing she needs like 5 to 7 tablespoons a day. Hard to get that much down.
Of course.
So we were wondering about intravenously, if that's a possibility, or injections. Yeah, I'm sorry, injections, not intravenously. Injections.
Well, and I did answer your email directly, Connie.
Okay, I didn't
there's
get it.
There's some information in the email that would be helpful, but I'm not going to say it over the show. But partly it would be using Remag Lotion as well as the oral. But with someone who's got that much need for magnesium, I don't know if you can get a doctor to do a magnesium loading test on her for magnesium wasting. And you can look up magnesium wasting conditions and see if it seems to fit your sister. Okay. And there really isn't much more you can do except what you're already doing, trying to get as much magnesium in her as possible. But what you could add is homeopathic magnesium. Magnesium sulfate in the homeopathic form might help her body kind of relate to the magnesium better. But there's a small percentage of people that waste magnesium. It just flushes right out of them. Take it in and it goes right out. And I'd like to know, I'd like to figure out how to stop that. The homeopathic might help. Taking the other minerals would help. But if you look into the magnesium wasting and see if that makes sense, at least you might have an answer for what's happening. And the doctors would support you more.
Right. Okay, well, I appreciate that because I had not heard of the magnesium wasting. Is there a particular test we would ask for?
Yes, it's a 24-hour test. I don't know that it has a, let me look it up. I do talk about it in my Magnesium Miracle book. Let me see what it's called. Diagnosis is ultimately made through lab testing. Primary renal magnesium wasting is a rare cause of low magnesium. And usually, yes, they pick it up by finding a lot of magnesium in the urine. And I think what I'll do, Connie, is I'll clip it from my my book and let Ginny email it to you, these words, or Ginny or Melody Rose, because we're already in touch with you today. You sent that question, okay?
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it so much. And we have told, my sister's on several line boards, and she has told numerous people about your Remag and the success we've had with it. It's the only magnesium we have found that does what this does. And, I mean, they were trying, medications in the hospital that weren't taking care of it.
Oh,
so
yes. I know.
It's been a miracle.
It's very unfortunate
Okay.
that they look. It's unfortunate they look for drug solutions for
Yes.
for a magnesium deficiency problem.
Mhm. Yes,
Right.
for sure. Okay. Well, thank you for sending that, and we'll read that, and then we'll pursue this avenue.
Okay, thanks, Connie, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
what you're doing with your sister. You're doing heroic work. You know, when President Trump talks about first responders, I think he should start talking about the folks out there who are on the front lines helping their friends and family through these serious illnesses. It's a hard work what you're doing, and I certainly appreciate what you're doing.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate what you're doing. And my piano teacher would want me to say hello, Carolyn from Arkansas. Carolyn.
Oh, of course. Oh, my gosh. Oh, sweet. Very nice. Thank you, Connie. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a great evening.
Y'all have a great evening, too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That's so funny that you said that, Carolyn, about being a first responder, because honestly, I was thinking that very thing today. I thought, you know, our customers are really heroes. They are out on the front line snatching people out of the jaws of whatever they've got, you know, being aggressive and standing with us and saying, hey, you know, you've got to get on some really good highly absorbed magnesium and minerals, and it's going to make a big difference in your life. So I agree. Our customers are really first responders. That's hilarious. I was thinking about that today. Wow.
Yeah.
How great.
Well, we share a brain. We do share a brain.
We do share a brain. Okay, 602-666-6027. Again, the number to call and talk with Dr. Dean this evening. If you've got a question or comment, be sure to dial into the show. And where are we with everything else? I think we're all caught up on the chat line, Carolyn, so we can keep going.
Okay, great. Yes, the back to our mailbag. So this question is about vitamin D. There's maybe some other thyroid questions, but this is someone who says, the vitamin D I find is made from lanolin, and that's true. It's made from sheep lanolin. When I take it, I feel itchy internally, and an old scar tissue related to 3 C-sections gets itchy. Itching is intense, so I stopped taking that vitamin D. I suppose I'm allergic to lanolin internally, but not when applied to my skin. After long internet searches, I found a vitamin D made from sunflower oil. Is the use of sunflower oil something you know works well? Well, I don't know about the vitamin D sunflower oil. I hadn't even heard of that. But what we use is the vitamin D in blue ice royal. It's a fermented cod liver oil, so it is food-based. It's therapeutic, and it also has vitamin A in it and vitamin K2. So it's the fat-soluble vitamins that help hold on to calcium, put it in the bones, and do the right things that vitamin D is supposed to do. So it's a blue ice royal, and it's on our website. We don't make it, but we have it available for people to buy, just so that they can get everything in their one cart and have one shipping charge and all the rest of those good things. Next one, I think it may have to do with vitamin D. This is an interesting vitamin D. It's kind of a testimonial. Someone says that their solar urticaria is cured. Solar urticaria is hives that this person gets in the sun. And she says, I've suffered from solar urticaria since I was a teenager, and I'm in my 40s now. As soon as I started taking your Remag, I noticed I could go out in the sun without having itchy hives and feeling like someone poured acid on my skin. If I stop taking the Remag, the severe burning sensation and hives come back as soon as the sun hits my exposed skin. My question is, how does magnesium fix solar urticaria? It truly is a magnesium miracle. Thank you for your help. So my answer, I probably haven't heard of that before, but I said, I think it may have to do with vitamin D demanding magnesium to turn the sunshine vitamin D into active vitamin D. So now with magnesium available from the Remag saturating your cells, you don't have that lack and that reaction. Awesome. So isn't that incredible, Jenny? Did you know that our magnesium, now we're not allowed to use the cure word, but did you know that our magnesium had that reaction on solar urticaria?
That is incredible, but wow. So, I mean, we can only speculate how well the Remag is getting into the mitochondria, but it's got to have something to do with it, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it just saturates and does everything that the magnesium is meant to do. And I guess with no one really studying these things, we just have to kind of speculate and see if it makes sense. I've never been asked that question before, and that's why I said at the outset I'm really excited when I get all these emails, because it makes my brain just go into overdrive. It's awesome. We only have a few minutes to the top, so will I go on with another mailbag, Ginny?
Yes, please.
This is a kidney patient. She says, I've been taking Remag for 6 months to help with my magnesium deficiency. I'm on kidney dialysis. The Remag majorly helps with controlling my phosphorus levels, which was practically impossible to control, even taking 2 or 3 phosphate binders per meal. I can now eat more nuts, beans, and even dark chocolate, all normally high in phosphorus. And she wondered about other things that if she could put her Remag in other liquids, and I said yes. I said yes. Now that you and your body are familiar with Remag, you can experiment, and you can put it in any liquid. She says even though hundreds of cellular reactions occur because of magnesium, nephrologists consider it forbidden for those of us on dialysis. She said, I started my Remag with 2 or 3 drops per beverage, about 20 drops per day, which I'm guessing is only 10% of my RDA of magnesium. Now, there's 2.5 milligrams per drop, so she was getting 50 milligrams, so yeah, a low amount, but therapeutic. This was just to see how I personally felt and to see how the phosphorus would look. First thing I noticed was sleeping a bit better and the reduction of reflux, GERD, heartburn. After using Remag for only 2 weeks, my phosphorus had noticeably improved. For the first time, it was in range. So I very gradually increased the amount. When I got to about 5 to 7 drops per beverage, after a couple of days, I felt severe muscle weakening. I'm thinking that may have been magnesemia. And I said, I don't believe that would have happened so quickly. What does happen is that the various enzyme systems start revving up and get greedy and want more magnesium. So there's a body shift of magnesium as it gets directed away from muscles for a short time. Some people don't even notice this happening, but you do because you're so body aware. So then she goes on to my actual question. I have 2 amounts of Remag that I take, which seem to help different things. She puts 7 to 15 drops in each beverage, and then she says 30 minutes before I get hooked up for dialysis, I take 20 drops. Just so you know, she has a type of hypertension, and that she gets while she's in dialysis, and she says the 20 drops stops that from happening. And I said, yes, that makes sense, because that's what magnesium does, relaxes the smooth muscles in the blood vessels. And I asked her if she'd read the kidney text in my Magnesium Miracle book, and I said we could send that to her. And she ends up now when I have a bowel movement with the increased magnesium, my stool has a strong metallic smell, quite unusual and definitely not normal. And she wondered if that was something to do with the magnesium coming out. And I said, no, that's more likely the body detoxing heavy metals because it also does that. And I thanked her for her comments. Again, that it just, I've never had, have we heard a comment about the metal smell in bowel movements taking Remag? I really haven't, but this was wonderful. And it's a male patient. I'm sorry if I kept saying she. I apologize. And there was another question, but I think I'll answer that by email because it's quite complex. So, Ginny, top of the hour, ending up with a wonderful mailbag.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to be right back with Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. Lots more questions, comments, information. Ellen, I gave you a few questions to answer for me on the chat line, and then we'll pose your questions to Dr. Dean. So we'll be right back, everybody. Hang in there.
We'll be back with Hour 2 of Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean, along with host Ginny Gunther, after this brief station break. You can also get updates and resources online by visiting drcarolyndean.com.
Psychic radio, holistic radio, spiritual radio. This is achieveradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/achieveradio.
They will call this. They'll say, oh, the toxicology report came back. Then it's going to cause questions. They're going to have to ask, and they're going to want to research, and they're going to want to know what this is. And then they're going to say, what happened? You were Rh negative. Now you're no longer Rh negative now. Now they cross-type your blood, and they can't cross-type your blood. Then you have the strangest, weirdest A negative ever. But there is no negative anymore. It's going to be a little more of a thing. So let's go with this just like this for today. Once this starts and becomes normal, then they'll say, oh, okay, we've seen this before. This is blah. They'll say this. Here's what they'll call it. In the mean, Bob's in the mean business, they will call this. They'll say, oh, you have the toxicology report came back, and you have what we call is ascended blood. It's a disease. It's a disease. It's anything that's not normal is a disease. So you will suffer from ascended blood, and that's what they'll call it.
AchieveRadio.com.
Here we go now. Go to the Carolyn. Here we go now. Here we go now. The wellness scene with Dr. D. Here we go now. Here we go now. Go to the Dr. D.
All righty, Hour 2, Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. Here we go now, courtesy of our good friend Michael Brown down in South Africa, always rapping out some good tunes for the gang, and that's a great little song to come in. Here we go now, Carolyn. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yes, I'm here. Muted. Answering emails. Oh, my gosh.
Of course. Multitasking. Yeah. Okay, excellent.
Yes, I'm doing good. What have we got? What have we got going on in your world, on the board?
On the board, well, Tom was asking the question, and I'm going to answer it here and put it in the record because he said a quick travel-related question to save space. Is it possible to combine Remag and Remite to the same bottle? And, of course, that's fine. And I just said, measure out the dose. So if it's, if you're taking 1.5 to 1, just make sure you get it in there the right way. But also, Tom, get travel bottles. Don't use our bottles because our bottles are not great for traveling. They kind of have a tendency to leak. So mix up your concoction and then make sure you put it in a nice, tight travel bottle. Right, Carolyn?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I do when I travel, in the winter I have to use check bags because I have to take winter clothes. So you can get any size bottle with a tight lid and put Remite if I'm taking Recalci at the time, and then I put my lemon juice concentrate in the amount where I know if I take a teaspoon, I know exactly how much I'm getting of my formula. So you're traveling with one nice mixed up bottle that you can put in any water anywhere, and you don't have to stop and open 3-4 bottles and do it. It just makes it real easy.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. That's the way we do it too. Okay, excellent. All right, so Ellen had a question, and but I'm waiting for her response. So for a couple of things, details I asked her about what she's doing before I can answer the question. Okay, so let's wait for Ellen, and Carolyn, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. Good timing. I just finished that important email. It was about you, Ginny. I'll tell you later. Now, look, this is an incredible post that I got, and I don't know if I know this person's name. It's a young man. It's antibiotic poisoning, no question. And what this person starts to tell me about is that he has a whole list of symptoms, and it all began, I mean, I've got pages and pages of information here, but it began after he had some sort of flu virus and was given an antibiotic. And he 6'4", 195 pounds now, down from 215 pounds. And for some sort of infection, he was put on penicillin and ibuprofen, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So when I went down this list of his treatments, I just put beside it, okay, so he's got yeast overgrowth now, and the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory causes magnesium loss, whereas magnesium is a natural anti-inflammatory. Often when you take these drugs as anti-inflammatories, all of a sudden you need more because they take out the magnesium, which is your natural anti-inflammatory. By the end of the month, he was put on a second antibiotic and a different one and a different non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, causing the same problem, yeast overgrowth, magnesium wasting. They did a CAT scan. His kidneys, something was going on with his kidneys, so he was put on a third antibiotic 2 weeks after the second one, and this non-steroidal anti-inflammatory again. And then he was put on very high doses of the first non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Then, at the end of the third month, he was put on Cipro. And that's where, I started to get all the Cipro damage. And then he was having bladder and kidney inflammation, and he was given a cystoscopy where they put a horrible metal rod up your urethra and look at your bladder. That's a major stress. And right after that, he was put on prednisone for 10 days, probably because they irritated his bladder so much. And then he was put on another non-steroidal and then another antibiotic, and this is sulfatrim, which is a double drug, then another antibiotic, and then an antidepressant. Yeah. After all that, we get a young man, in the prime of his health, and he's put on a half a dozen antibiotics, and then he's depressed. So they put him on this amitriptyline tricyclic antidepressant, and then more non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, and then his sleeping is bad. He's got anxiety. They start putting him on anxiety medications. It just reads like such a horror story. And then someone tells them to get in touch with us. So I just said, in my 45-plus years of experience, what will help is the minerals, gentle detox, doing yeast treatment, and he sent pages of all the tests he'd done, and the blood. I mean, the blood didn't really look out of place. It just showed inflammation and irritation from all the drugs he's been taking, and they're trying to tell him that he's got abnormalities in his blood now, which they don't even consider that the dozen or more drugs that he's been taking could have created this problem. And then he listed the dozen doctors he's been seeing and all the symptoms he's been having: aches and pains in joints, that's magnesium; insomnia, that's magnesium; lightheaded, feeling faint, yeast overgrowth; random twitching in muscles and veins, magnesium; frequent urination. That can be when you're low in your minerals, you have frequent urination because your water's not driven into your cells properly. And on and on and on. And I don't know what to do with these types of situations besides just saying, well, we just find real simple means of giving your body the building blocks for their structure and function, and your body will take over. Your body has a major tendency to normalize, but it can't do that if you're feeding it drugs all the time. So, yeah, that was a real sad case. So, I don't know if this young man has followed up or if he's going to follow the protocol, but what can happen in these situations, he's been through so much, had so many tests, he may think that he has a huge problem. There's something really wrong with him, rather than he's been poisoned all the way along. So that's that.
Wow. Okay. Let's do a couple questions from the chat line here, Carolyn. All right. So Ellen types in, and she says, okay. Dear Dr. Jean and Ginny, I started on Remag and the other products as of June of 2016. Okay. I just had the RBC magnesium test and scored a 3.6, so I'm not there yet. But in the meantime, I'm wondering how to tell if I need the Recalcia, which I take occasionally because I don't know if I really need it. I am a lacto-vegetarian. Please comment. Okay, so then I asked her magical questions, and what she says is, I have 2 cups of yogurt daily. I very rarely eat cheese. I now take a half a teaspoon of Remag and a half a teaspoon of Remite.
Oh, boy. That's nothing, young woman. That is nothing. Stop it. Stop not doing enough Remag. Did you say the number was 3.6?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's even below the range. The range for magnesium is 3.8. Well, they keep changing it. I think it might be 4.2 to 6.8 or 7.
Yeah, I think it is.
Whatever. Yeah, 4.2. So you're below normal, for Pete's sakes. And half a teaspoon of Remag is only 150 milligrams. So how can you get saturated? So sorry to yell at you. You need more. You need more. And 2 cups of yogurt daily. Now, yogurt, I don't know, the label could say how much calcium is in the yogurt. So look at your yogurt label, and if there's a lot of sugar in it, that's not going to be helpful anyway. This one type of yogurt has 284 milligrams per 8 ounces. So just look at your labels. 600 milligrams is what you're looking at, but only if you're taking 600 milligrams of magnesium. Otherwise, you are overloading yourself with calcium. Take the phone away, Bob. Take it away. Run. Bob's not running. We have two phone lines here, so the other one is blaring off the rocks. Bob, take the phone away.
Too much calcium, Carolyn, is what you were saying, and you're right. If you're taking 284, 2 cups of yogurt a day is almost 500 milligrams of calcium, and then you've got 150 milligrams of magnesium, and it's out of balance.
Yeah. So that may be why her level isn't
moving
at all. And I appreciate the question, and I appreciate being able to give the answer. A lot of people will, not like you did, but will write in or say, well, I've been taking my Remag for all this time, and my levels are still low. What's going on? But the reason is too much calcium and absolutely not enough of the Remag, magnesium.
Right, absolutely. Okay, Ellen, so type back in and just let us know that you got the message and that you're going to be taking more Remag. Okay, so that the way I explain it to people, Carolyn, is I just say that magnesium is like money. And every day you need a certain amount of money to live your life, and then you want to save a certain amount of money to go on vacation. And you're trying to restore your magnesium level to, higher than 3.6. So that means you want to save a lot of money to go on vacation. So you've got to at least give yourself 300 milligrams a day to just pay the bills. And you've got to get to 450, 600, and beyond to actually build a savings account. That's what you're trying to do. Okay, so anyway, that's where we are with that. Now, let me also say, so Ellen, type in just the chat line and let me know you got this information. Tom types in and he said, I have an AFib question. My spouse has had good success using Remag and also Remite. In the 3 instances of her AFib, about 1 per year, her potassium tested minimum or below minimum. Any suggestions for ways to boost her potassium beyond dietary? I love your products. Thank you.
Well, what's interesting about potassium, and allopathic medicine will say this as well, if your potassium is low, you can't get it up unless you have enough magnesium. So if the potassium is low during an AFib episode, the AFib episode then is happening because the magnesium is low for whatever reason, whatever burned it off to create the AFib episode. And the potassium is a marker, and it may be part of the AFib, but because they don't test for magnesium, they miss that as being probably the true cause of the AFib attack. And how to get potassium, I talk about that in the Invisible Minerals Part 1 Remag book, using potassium broth. You can no longer get potassium supplements beyond 99 milligrams per dose, whereas the potassium RDA is 4,700 milligrams. So there's a lot of potassium running around. And bone broth just means every time you cook something with bones in it, you take those bones and boil them up and save that liquid to use to make your stews and soups and whatever. And the bone broth recipe is in probably the Remite Recalcia book, which is Invisible Minerals Part 2. Bob's throwing up his hands. He doesn't know where it is. And Bob couldn't help me there. Okay, so that's
I just wanted to say, Carolyn, we also have a bone broth recipe that we send out through customer service. So if you just want to shoot us an email that says bone broth in the subject line, we'll send it to you. And also, Carolyn, let's just point out that each serving of Remite, which is 3/4 of a teaspoon, has 99 milligrams of potassium, which is the maximum dose. If she's taking 1.5 teaspoons of Remite, which is what she should be doing every day, then she's getting almost 200 milligrams of a highly concentrated, highly absorbed, very, very powerful potassium. Correct, Carolyn?
Yes, that's true. I should not minimize the fact that our potassium is going to be so well absorbed, it will be helpful. So heaven forbid, and during an AFib episode, then take Remag and Remite. Take extra just to help. I mean, when we heard Connie talking about her sister and the seizures and convulsions being just stopped within minutes of taking the Remag, I mean, that's awesome. This stuff gets into the cells and helps the structure and function of the cells immediately.
Yeah. So make sure she's got the right amount of Remite flowing too, Tom. Okay, and then you can support at rnareset.com. Just put bone broth in the subject line, and we'll shoot you the recipe. Okay, April types in and says, hi, I take 6 to 8 jigsaw magnesium per day. I guess that's probably, what is that, a tablet or a capsule? I still don't have the laxative effect. I was thinking of getting Remag, but what is the optimal amount? If you don't get the laxative effect with Remag, how do you know what the proper dose is? That's a good question.
Well, right, and it's, I've written about it because when you do get saturated, you do get the laxative effect. It's not that you've got a stopper in your gut that stops anything from happening. When you get saturated, and I went through this, people go through this, it took me 1.5 years to get saturated from the 4 milligrams. I went down to 3 when I added the Remite, and then I only needed 2. And this past year, I've only needed 1 teaspoon. And if I do take 1.5 teaspoons, I do get a mild laxative effect. I test myself all the time, and therefore I know I am saturated. So what we tell people is work up by 1/4 teaspoon every few days till you get to maybe 2 teaspoons. You guide yourself by your symptoms, see how you're feeling, and you may need 3 teaspoons. For my heart palpitations, I needed 4 teaspoons. And as my symptoms went away, I cut back, and if I cut back too much, my palpitations came back. I'm quote unquote lucky because I have symptoms that I can follow. I also get leg cramps if I miss a couple of doses before. If I miss 1 dose, I'd start getting a little thumping in my heart or a leg cramp. Now I can skip a couple doses because I'm pretty saturated. So you have to but you have to kind of experiment with your dosage to know what suits you. There's no one-size-fits-all. Okay?
Yep. Excellent. Okay, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean here on AchieveRadio.com. We've got 602-666-6027 is the number to call and talk with Dr. Dean, and which is always, my strongest suggestion and recommendation because she's very intuitive. She's always got great insights. Yvonne's typing in, Carolyn, and saying, my functional doctor wants me to do 20 IV chelations over an 8-week period and supplement with a mineral chelate supplement to replace what is lost during chelation. Do you think this type of IV chelation could be dangerous for me to do? I have thyroid and adrenal issues and fibromyalgia. Should I continue with Remag and Remite along with the supplement he advises?
Well, I've written about chelation, and I think it's dangerous. When I did my own EDTA chelation just to do my experiment, I always check these things out, and I love sticking needles in myself. So I felt very proud of myself. Pump up my vein in my in my arm. I stick the needle in. Bob's there watching. What are you doing? And I tape it down. And I did it wasn't more than 2 or 3 of them that I did, and my knees started to ache. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm pulling out my calcium. And unless you have Remag and Remite to replace what you're pulling out, you're not going to be able to absorb enough of these minerals that you're pulling out, and you don't even know how much you're pulling out. You're not doing a 24-hour urine analysis. You're not analyzing what's coming out. You're not matching that to what's going in. You don't know what's being absorbed going in. So I just think it's Russian roulette, and I know people have benefited by chelation, really, really ill people where they had no other choices, or very healthy people who would just want to be healthier. But I don't see the equation, how you can balance out properly what you're taking out. And you're assuming, what are they trying to take out? High calcium? Well, just stop taking calcium supplements. Are they trying to take out heavy metals? Well, to do that, that is benefited by doing REMAG and doing Realign and doing it slowly enough that your body can cope with it, rather than these chelations. I mean, they use a flush. They'll give people a test dose of DMSA, for example, and then check their urine to see what comes out. Well, when you flush yourself with DMSA, you pull out a lot of heavy metals and mercury that can recirculate in your body and be reabsorbed, into your brain. I've had so many people who've said to me, I did this test dose of DMSA and I've never been well since. So I listen, and I really don't like it when these kind of generalized treatments are being given to people with no, as I said, no real measurement of what's coming out and no absorption of what's going in. So I really urge people to be patient, Yvonne, to be patient, and do the therapeutic doses of REMAG and REMITE and Realign, and slowly get your body detoxing and get your thyroid supported. Read the REMAG book and the text that I've written about thyroid and adrenal. Make sure you're doing all those good things for your hormones, rather than a detox in the form of the chelation that's really too harsh for most people. So there.
Okay, excellent. Now, the other thing, Carolyn, is the thing about, I know you talked about a lot about the chelation, but what about just fibromyalgia in general?
Well, fibromyalgia in general, I wonder if that blog has gone out. I had such an exciting weekend. I wrote 7 blogs, Ginny. I wrote 7 blogs this week.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. It was awesome. I was on such a roll. But, yes, I'm looking at my blogs. We haven't gone into them yet. Maybe that's next. And the top one, March 11th, is called Fibromyalgia Linked to Deficiencies in RBC Magnesium. It's right there. There is a study, I think it's in here somewhere, but what I say in this blog is, I'd like to apologize for not having the following reference in the 2017 edition of Magnesium Miracle. Fibromyalgia linked to deficiencies in RBC Magnesium and IGF, growth factor. It's an important validation of what I've been saying for over 20 years. I believe fibromyalgia is 50% magnesium deficiency. The other 50% is yeast overgrowth, and I've been saying that for over 30 years. The study authors say about magnesium that, quote, restoring those levels to where they should be, we have found, can truly turn people's lives around. They have more stamina and more energy. So that's pretty amazing when they've finally done a study that shows the importance of testing for magnesium and then taking magnesium. And I do a big excerpt from a Magnesium Miracle on fibromyalgia in this blog. So that's my statement on fibromyalgia, magnesium deficiency and yeast overgrowth. And when you get susceptible enough to get yeast overgrowth, there's many things that lead you to have yeast overgrowth. And I don't really make huge, long lists of everything that can be toxic and irritating and all the rest of it. I think that just overwhelms people when they think, oh, my gosh, I've got so much of this, and what am I going to do? This is what a lot of the sites are doing, sort of shining the bright white light of their wisdom in people's eyes by showing how many things they can come up with that are affecting you. And I don't really like that, because it puts you in a less than position, and you lose hope if you think there's so much going on. But I've written it in many of my books, Downward Spiral. I might have put it in the Fibromyalgia chronic fatigue webinar. But, yes, you can start off with diaper rash and then childhood immunizations, childhood ear infections, get antibiotics for them, colic due to the antibiotics, and allergy to soy formula, and then dairy allergy, tubes in the ears because you have your immune system is suppressed. I mean, all this, on and on and on. But most of these things are causing mineral deficiencies, especially magnesium. They're causing yeast overgrowth, because every time you come to a doctor with symptoms, you have teenage acne, you get antibiotics. Okay, that's yeast. You have bladder infections, antibiotics, more yeast. Birth control pills, more yeast. Pregnancy, more yeast. So you can't kind of avoid the fact that there's yeast overgrowth, and you can't just keep saying, oh, I can't get pregnant, or I can't. It's just common sense to me, where you put it in one bundle of yeast overgrowth and you treat it. Cravings for sweets, that's yeast. Dental cavities, putting in mercury. Yeah, mercury is like a major antibiotic that creates more yeast. So for me, it runs into yeast as the kind of underlying root problem caused by many things, but because we can treat yeast, then we overcome all these horror stories. Do you get my point, Jenny? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense to me, Carolyn, because I get to read all the testimonials, and I know it's difficult for people to really wrap their mind around this whole issue around yeast. And, of course, one of the things about yeast is that they are a demand for sugar. So you've got the yeast in there demanding all this sugar, and then you've got the sugar in there that's pushing your insulin, and you've got your insulin that's inflaming your body with all kinds of, inflammatory issues. And so you're running a real dual track with that yeast. And when you stop feeding the yeast the sugar and you really flip yourself around that way and you get your body saturated with the minerals, and I'm not advocating for this, Yvonne, but I am saying that Sandy Burr, one of our favorite customers, she said, I had diarrhea for the first 30 days, and I didn't even care. She just kept swallowing that magnesium because she was determined to feel better, And I'm not saying that's going to happen to you. I'm just saying I think about keeping the body saturated with magnesium until you can get a breakthrough. And we have a lot of people who've done it, and they've been very successful. So I hope that really gives you some inspiration. And, of course, if you need any more help, just contact us through customer support, and we'll do what we can. Carolyn, April typed in and said, can you explain what Realign actually is? Like Realign's a secret. Can you explain what Realign actually is?
Yeah, let me quote from my book, the Realign book, which I don't know when Ginny wants it, but I keep plugging away at it. Okay, Realign is a combination of B vitamins and 2 sulfur amino acids. The sulfur amino acids provide sulfur to the liver's sulfation detoxification pathways. Methionine is a precursor to glutathione. Taurine stands on its own. It It has many uses. People take it for the heart, so we have a heart-supportive amino acid in Realign. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 B vitamins. Half of them are methylated, half of them are food-based. So anything that you can methylate in the Bs, we've got methylated, including B12. And the methyl groups in the methylated Bs means that you don't have to strip your body of methyl groups in order to turn a B vitamin into a methyl B. And the methyl groups in these methylated Bs, they go on to do all kinds of very exciting things in the body. They keep the homocysteine under control. They support, there's just so much. I'll have to get this book out there, but the methyl Bs do so much for the body, and that's why they become crucial for people who don't have enough. And this whole business of the MTHFR gene, I'm no longer saying gene mutations. I'm following the number of practitioners who just say, no, they're variations. They're just variations of the genes that deal with methylation that have been there all along in the population, and now, because we do genetic testing, we're all somehow deciding that they're a problem.
Carolyn, your sentence got knocked out, the last whole sentence, key point you were making, got flipped out from my perspective.
Ginny, did you hear it, or did Bob knock me out?
I didn't knock you out.
You knocked me out, Bob.
No, I did hear the part about what you were talking about, that they're not mutations, they're variations, and you're going to stick with that because mutation does sound weird. And it's just a variation, which means it can just pop back into place. It doesn't have to be a thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a thing. So that's what it does, and we depend on our Realign to help detoxify us because of the glutathione, which is a major detoxifier, because the Bs do help metabolism. As I said, the methyl groups and the sulfur help the methylation and sulfation of detoxification of the liver. So we call it a gentle detox. We also say it's a complete B vitamin. So you're getting a number of things here. Instead of buying a B complex and buying a methionine and buying a taurine, they're all together. And what I say is if you get the building blocks of detoxification, then your body can decide when it wants to detoxify rather than, walking into a doctor's office when your body may not want to detoxify and forcing yourself to have a chelation. So I hope that answers.
Excellent.
April. Yep.
Yeah, very good, very good. Excellent, excellent. Okay, live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. I know, Carolyn, you mentioned we haven't not gone over your blog and what you've written this week, so maybe we should do that.
I think so. Let me see. I'll just go. Fibromyalgia linked to deficiencies in RBC magnesium. That I talked about, and you can read these blogs at drcarolyndean.com. And the one before that, low magnesium makes vitamin D ineffective. So more studies coming home to roost. I've been saying that you need magnesium for vitamin D to work, and this study confirms what I've been saying for years. The American Osteopathic Association in this paper says basically vitamin D can't be metabolized from the inactive form to the active form without sufficient magnesium. They even make the statement, quote, people are taking vitamin D supplements but don't realize how it gets metabolized. Without magnesium, vitamin D is not really useful or safe. And I'm concerned because doctors, allopathic doctors, have gotten hold of the fact that vitamin D is so beneficial, and they will just give people huge amounts of vitamin D without any regard for magnesium. So hopefully people will be doctors will be looking at this article.
Are you the only person that knows that before this article about vitamin D and magnesium?
Oh, I doubt it. I don't know.
No, but you never hear anybody who, when they take vitamin D, talk about, oh, I also taking my magnesium to balance it.
Right. No, it's pretty obscure. I'm sure people do know it, but they aren't writing about it as much as I am. Okay, next one, more antidepressants are not the answer. And this is a crazy paper, The Lancet. It's out of the UK, and it says researchers examined 522 trials involving 21 types of medication over almost 4 decades. I say, sounds impressive, doesn't it? They claim that all the trials showed that antidepressant drugs were more effective than placebo, but only 1 in 6 patients suffering from depression are receiving treatment. After saying all that, they did concede that the most prescribed antidepressants, like Prozac, which contains 3 fluoride molecules, and Celexa, which contains 2 fluoride molecules, were found to be among the least effective. And so how effective are they, and what are their side effects? In my mind, if you say a drug is effective, it should be effective in most, if not all, cases. But their criteria was that if a drug reduced symptoms in at least half of patients over a period of 2 months, it was deemed effective. So 50%. It's like, so I say, since when is a 50-50 coin toss seen as a solution to such a serious condition as depression? In this study, the researchers are playing with numbers in a blatant attempt to give more drugs to more people at younger ages because they see symptoms of mental illness escalating and don't know what else to do for it. So this, I go on about industry exaggerating the antidepressant effects of their drugs and them being sued for making inappropriate statements. I bring in some of the information I have in Death by Modern Medicine about Dr. David Healy, North Wales Department of Psychological Medicine. He was very vocal in his concerns about SSRI antidepressants and their association with suicide. So this kind of brings up the question of the school shooters, where they're all on antidepressants. They all have possible tendencies to homicide or suicide using these drugs. So that's the antidepressant one. And the next one, words can't replace effective supplements. And this was, it was just kind of, I get personally frustrated. Oftentimes our customers will email and say, well, what do you think of these supplements? And I look them up, and it's doctors who have fairly large followings, yet they're telling people to take 10,000 units of vitamin D3, or they're saying vitamin C from ester C is the best, and it's just it's an ascorbic acid. It's not a vitamin C complex, or high doses of fish oils, which really they're starting to study this high dose fish oil business, and a lot of these fish oils can be rancid, and people are having side effects, and the studies are reporting that. That's why I just stick to the Blue Ice Royal with its fermented cod liver oil. Doing that and eating fish, you'll get your fish oil. And people prescribing or recommending Lugol's iodine. For example, this Lugol's, even 1 drop of Lugol's can cause an imbalance in all the other minerals that are necessary for thyroid hormone. So I'm constantly kind of deconstructing these websites where doctors have 100 supplements listed. They're not really telling people what protocol they as an individual should follow. And as I said earlier, I'm really blessed to have worked with the mineral deficiencies and magnesium deficiency and the yeast overgrowth for so long a time that I know that that's the protocol that people need for most of their chronic symptoms.
Hey, Carolyn, you think you get frustrated? Whenever I walk along the beach every day, I see all these nice couples, and they got their families, and they had enough money in their working career to have a nice trip to Maui, which can be pretty expensive. And I know half of them are doctors selling this crazy vitamin stuff and making profit off that needlessly.
Bob, that makes no sense.
What do you mean? No, there's people with getting money doing this 10,000 prescription nonsense you just mentioned.
Yeah, well, they're prescribing drugs, yes, but
no vitamins. This excess vitamins you're just complaining about.
Okay, fine, Bob, get off the line. You're not helping.
You think you're frustrated? I'm way more frustrated.
Well,
I see these
get
people.
off
They don't deserve to be here.
Get off my show. Every time you unmute yourself, it causes an echo and lots of clicking. You cannot come on the show anymore.
All right, no problem.
Thank you. Boy, I don't know what got into him.
I'm still here.
Oh, man, you're bad. So, Ginny, that's the blogs. I do have more mail bags if we need that, and testimonials. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, we always need, let's see. So, first of all, Yvonne wanted to say thank you. I have been praying to an answer whether to proceed with IV chelation for heavy metals. You were the answer, so she was very happy with that. Charlotte typed in, I tried 1 drop of Lugol's, and shortly thereafter I fainted. And yeah, exactly. That seems. And then April typed back and said, thank you for answering my questions about the Realign. I can't take any thyroid meds because they give me anxiety. So I am going to try to take Remite and see if that helps. Okay, now April typed in and asking about the Realign, and then she's talking about Remite. But April, is the basis of your concern anxiety? If so, then you're going to want to be using the magnesium too. So let's try to talk about that. Okay, I think we're good phone-wise. Let me just see if anybody's on the phone wanting to talk to Dr. Dean. You've got to hit *5 on your keypad to wave your hand in the studio and let me know you have a question or comment. So again, that's 602-666-6027, *5 on your keypad. Will raise your hand and let me know you have a question for Dr. Dean, and then I'll put you on the phone with her. Otherwise, we're going to be blasting off again once into our mailbag, which is always deep. It's like Santa's mailbag. So huge.
Yeah, we get wonderful questions, but I'm concerned about April. April, chat in what you're really concerned about, because like Ginny said, if it's an underlying anxiety, then Remag is going to be important. If thyroid supplements, I think you said, cause a problem, the Remite, you have to start it really slowly because there's iodine in there. So as one of our other customers said, she started with a few drops. So be committed to go slowly on these things and don't charge forward. And, yeah, if you have some specific question, April, please chat in. This person.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Okay, so this next mailbag. I had Hashimoto's for years, and then a year ago my thyroid got overactive. I started taking your Remag and Remite shortly after that time. My TSH levels went from 0.01 to 8.5. The endocrinologist said my thyroid was going to crash, and he put me on Synthroid. he would put me on Synthroid when it did. But then on the Remag and Remite, my TSH went to 5.5. It never crashed, and now it's 3.5. And my T3 and T4 are in the normal range. First time in probably 30 years. She puts a big smiley face. Another success story. And I just had an ultrasound done, and the size of my thyroid has decreased as well. It's just getting better all the time. No AFib, lower cholesterol, better kidney function, normalized thyroid, more energy, better mood, still working on getting my blood pressure normalized. So, of course, I had to answer that. And I said, blood pressure has to do with wanting to be in control. So let go a bit, and it will let you go. Just a thought. So that's the thing that I will jump to, is the conflict of total biology. When people are doing so well and they're taking all their complement formulas and they say, but I still have this, then we look at the conflict. This next one, someone says, we are recent customers of yours after a month of attempting to become detectives to find the real cause of a serious medical condition my husband has suffered from that has temporarily changed the life of my family. Thankfully, we are already onto magnesium. We were already onto magnesium as a huge portion of the support he needed prior to finding all of your remarkably valuable educational information. Thank you. You're a champion for humanity. Love your passion, dedication, etc. Do not allow anyone make you rethink the words you share. Your blog post and recent audio recording about your feelings about guns not being the problem is our favorite yet. Shout it to the world. Just because someone doesn't want to hear it doesn't mean it doesn't need to be said. The ostriches of the world need their heads ripped out of the sand. Now, that's interesting because I did get some flack about the guns diet and deficiencies, not guns. I mean, I was being pretty blatant with that blog because I wanted to bring it to people's attention that the focus just being on to take away all the guns and the problem would go away was really not the way to handle this. Yeah, diet and drugs are the problem, not guns. Certainly guns in the wrong hands are the problem, but when we're poisoning our kids from birth with vaccinations and sugar and then treating their addictions with ADHD drugs, and then as they get older saying that they need antidepressants, and yet at the same time, and this is all in the blog, I didn't mention this blog, Diet and Drugs Are the Problem, Not Guns. I talk about the work of Stephen Schoenthaler and Alexander Schoes, who both did multiple studies with juvenile delinquents and criminals, showing that if they took the sugar and junk food out of their diets, that their behavior changed. And nobody's been doing that. They've just been giving prisoners and delinquents the cheapest food in the world and making them worse. So that's that mailbag, and I'll hesitate here to see if Ginny has anything to input from chat or a phone call. Otherwise,
okay, let's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chat's all caught up, and no one on the phone.
Perfect. Testimonial.
Well, I mean, lots of people on the phone, but nobody wants to talk.
Right. I started on your wonderful Remag about 4 weeks ago. I have had some detox, and I'm going slow. I'm taking 1/2 a teaspoon 2 times a day with the recommended water. I'm also taking your B vitamins as well. It helps with nausea. I started taking the Remite a couple of weeks ago. I think it might have been too much. I think I should just stay with the Remag and the B for a while until my levels increase. I'm also using the sea salt in my water. I have moderate blood pressure around 149/82 and also thyroid. I take the natural medication, I guess, for thyroid. The Remite was giving me a faster heartbeat, and I know it affects the thyroid. This is a good thing. I have had my blood tested to see what is happening. I would love to try all your wonderful products. Now, so this, with the Remite, this is what we were talking about earlier, doing the Remite. You start really slowly. And a lot of people are sensitive to iodine if they've taken high-dose iodine. Even some of the scanning tests use iodine. Some drugs have iodine in them. People really don't know where they may have gotten a sensitivity to iodine. But the iodine in Remite is the RDA. It's very low potency, but it is well absorbed. So just go slowly when you do Remite. Now, this blood pressure 149/82, the bottom one is pretty normal. 149 is high, so that's an indication of stress and tension, and maybe needing more magnesium, of course. This woman is only on half a teaspoon twice a day, so that's 1 teaspoon. So I imagine when she gets up to 2 and 3 teaspoons that the blood pressure will bounce out, because it's mainly a tension blood pressure. The top blood pressure indicates the smooth muscles of the blood vessels are tightening up and causing the blood pressure. This short testimonial, this woman is saying, I found a doctor here that I really like. She has found that I am indeed mineral deficient and have yeast overgrowth. I turned her on to your formulas. She was slightly wary about Remite because of the copper. Then, lo and behold, she found I'm deficient. I've managed to get myself up to 5.6 on the magnesium RBC test. I don't know what I started at last July, but my doctor says with Remag I've managed to achieve one of the highest magnesium RBC levels she has seen in her practice. So that's interesting. Yep. And in terms of being wary about the copper and Remite, I was going to say, well, it's like the doctor had a word allergy to copper, because we know in nutritional medicine that there's a lot of copper toxicity, the copper IUD, the copper plumbing, copper pots and pans. There's a lot of copper in our environment. So a lot of people may be sensitive to copper or show high copper in their hair analysis, but that doesn't mean it's in their tissues. You can be dumping copper in your hair. That's why I find hair analysis difficult to follow. But what I've done, because I know, some other people, that copper can be toxic, I've made sure the copper in Remite is very low dose, and that there's enough zinc in the Remite to balance out the copper. So you don't have to worry about the copper in Remite. It's quite balanced. And
okay, Carolyn, let me interrupt with a couple of these quick questions. I've got 3 of them here. We've got 3 minutes left. Okay, April said, yes, I'm the one who takes the Jigsaw magnesium, so I do take magnesium already. I was thinking about taking the Remite to help my thyroid, since I can't take thyroid meds. And if you're really sensitive to iodine, that just means you should go slow, and that's what Carolyn means. Yes, it doesn't mean don't take it. It just means go slow, okay? And then...
so let me say about the Jigsaw magnesium. I know Jigsaw. I know the Jigsaw people, and they came out with what they say is a slow-release magnesium. Some people don't break down that slow-release tablet, and personally, when I used it, it gave me the laxative effect. So I know it's not fully absorbed. And if you'd like to know what it feels like to be saturated with magnesium, then you should try the Remag. It does work much better with the Remite, because when we get our results, we get them in people who are doing Remag and Remite. I really don't know the therapeutic effect of Jigsaw magnesium.
Okay,
go ahead.
Leilani, okay. Hi, you say to match magnesium and calcium 1-to-1. 1 teaspoon of magnesium is only 300 milligrams, but the recommended calcium is 700. So how do I match it with the magnesium? How many teaspoons, or should I do transdermal magnesium too?
Well, our magnesium is 300 milligrams per teaspoon, and our Recalcia is 300 milligrams per teaspoon. So it is a 1-to-1. And
right.
You look at your food and see if you're getting calcium there. I say 600 milligrams of calcium, 600 milligrams of magnesium. So I don't think there's a disparate problem there. You can email Ginny if you have more questions, because we're coming to the end of the show.
Okay, and that's support@rnareset.com. We'll be happy to help you. All right, excellent. Great show tonight, Carolyn. Excellent information. I think people are really going to be well served. We do invite you to join us for the webinar this Wednesday, and it's going to be on diabetes, pre-diabetic. I think that's like 70% of the American population, so pretty much everybody should be listening.
I know. We're making such a mess of things. And one of my orthomolecular group, they're writing in from all over the world. Yeah, Dubai has such a high rate of diabetes, India, Sri Lanka. Everybody who imports the American lifestyle is getting diabetes. It's the diet. Stop the sugar and burn it off. That's the message.
Right. Okay. And if you've got questions that we didn't get answered, please support@rnareset.com, and we'll answer them after the show. Again, support, SUPPORT@rnareset.com. And yes, Leilani, 2 of each. 2 teaspoons Remag, 2 teaspoons Recalcia. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginny.
Carolyn.
Thanks, Ginny. Thanks, Bob. Thanks.
Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Well, Bill.
AchieveRadio.com.
Bobby
Till
Mark.
next time, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
AchieveRadio.com.
You humans, you are marvelous creators. Marvelous creators. Every time they try to hem you up into a situation or a place of knowing,